Hello, my name is Zack Green, and I'm the founder of an organization called UniteBlue, whose goal is to connect, empower, and amplify progressives on social media, mainly leveraging Twitter right now. I'm joined here by Mr. Galvin, who has agreed to come on. We did one other interview last week, which you can find at uniteblue.com/video, and you can check that out for part one. This is going to be another series meant to resolve concerns that people have about UniteBlue and find ways to answer questions that various parties have expressed. And I'll let Mr. Galvin take it from here.
Good morning, Zach, and thank you for your time as well. And when we last met, you brought up several things that you wanted to clear the air on. You had a list of things that people were saying about UniteBlue that you said weren't true. Do you still have that list sitting there?
Sure. Yep.
Would you run through that again? I'd like to ask you some questions about them, but just so we can...
Okay. So there's been a lot of different questions and concerns about UniteBlue. Some of them have been completely legitimate. Some of them have been more on the conspiracy theory side, and some of them have been personal attacks. So last time that we talked, I put together a list of things that I felt were false, and here they are, I guess. People have claimed that we've been hacking Twitter accounts, that we've been stopping people from tweeting or sending direct messages without their knowledge, that we've been blocking accounts and unfollowing accounts without people's knowledge, or tweeting without their knowledge. People claim that we're stealing passwords and emails to the Twitter API, that we're tracking people around the internet with twibbons and cookies, that we're trying to sell the data that's collected from the Twitter API, that we've hacked accounts or stolen accounts, that we've worked for Herman Cain, that we've supported Ron Paul, that we are registered Republicans, that we're funded by Karl Rove and the Koch brothers. Some of the personal things that have come out include family names and addresses, including the names of things like my dead grandmothers, including their death certificates or announcements, rather. Information about my family's businesses, attacks on my father's personal reputation, my personal reputation. It's been implied that I'm a pedophile, that pictures of people using illicit drugs, defiling blow-up dolls that aren't me, claims that we made a blog attacking another person's family. And then people are also being asked to report accounts and apps for abuse, that members are being intimidated, that we are, or claims that we're intimidating others, or people being insulted and called minions and sheep and that sort of thing. I think that's most of the list that I read last time.
Okay. Now, I'm a little confused about one of those things, and that's cookies. Mm-hmm. In one place on your website, not the WebBlue website, but the 140 Elect website, in your Q&As, you had a question about cookies, and you basically said, well, I'm not really up on that kind of stuff, but you know, so I guess if my CTO, I checked with him, and he says we do, so I guess we do.
He didn't say that we do. He said that it was technically possible to use cookies to track actions on the internet from other sites, that sort of thing, but we don't actually do that ourselves.
Okay. Now, it's my understanding that correct me any place I'm wrong here, because I got this from a variety of public sources, but you graduated from Brown University?
Yeah, I started at George Washington University, just a couple blocks from the White House, and then transferred and went to Brown University, where I got my degree.
In philosophy?
Yeah, that was my final degree, though most of my studies were actually in psychology, neuroscience, and political science. I ended up kind of doing a philosophy degree because it was, oh, you got a cat there. Yeah. I got a philosophy degree mainly because of course load requirements, those sort of things. But my interest has always been in the psychological and political science fields.
Okay, so when did you actually start coding?
Um, I did a little bit while I was at university. I took different computer science classes. My
Hmm.
senior year, I was building websites, and then after that, I started doing it full time.
Okay. And you worked with your dad?
Oh yeah, he taught me a lot of what I know. I also have my own clients and things that I work with, but a large amount of the time we work together. And so I joined his firm, 140dev.com, on a development basis.
Okay. And so your business was basically developing websites for folks. Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
yeah. So one of our first ones, for instance, is one to help the elderly with medical alerts. So when people fall and they need to get an ambulance, they are able to press a button and they get medical assistance. And so we work for those type of companies.
Okay. Uh, so how would that work?
What do you mean?
Uh, your website there, help, I'm falling, I can't get up.
Oh, those are mainly more on the brochure and marketing side, making static things, trying to test whether or not different types of messaging works better. So A/B testing, that sort of thing. Kind of more simple website development.
Okay. Were you involved in search engine optimization for your
Um, Not particularly. That's more Adam's field of expertise. I do more front end stuff. So when you see design or you see user interface, if you're looking at UniteBlue and you think
Mhm.
it's pretty or you think it's fun to use, that's me. If you're seeing data or any of that type of stuff, that's more my father and his firm that work with that.
Okay. Um, Now, I have gone back through and reread for about the umpteenth time your newest revised privacy statement.
Hmm.
And just like the others, it does stipulate uh, directly that you do, in fact, use cookies, both persistent
Hmm.
and temporary cookies,
Yep.
that do track, uh, originating IP address, what site they came from to your site.
I don't believe we do any of that. The cookies, I mean, our privacy policy is pretty general, so it may
Mhm.
say that we can do things that we don't actually do. The cookies that we actually use are things like saying whether you're the first time user on the site, you have a unique ID or user key that makes sure that when you take actions such as following and tweeting, that it's actually you who signed in so that other people can't, act on your behalf or try to hack the system. It's a security measure. We have other things that if you've seen a trend page before, it might change. It's that sort of thing. It's all of the cookies and you can check them on your browser. You can go to preferences and probably see the cookies
Mhm.
that we use. They're all more internal tracking to kind of make it so the site changes based on your behaviors. There's no, as far as I'm aware, any type of external website tracking or anything like that.
So when somebody leaves your site, you don't track the page they left from and the URL that they transited to.
Not what they transit to. We can't get that information. Maybe people can, but we don't.
Yeah.
What we do track is things like if you load a page, it will send something saying this page was loaded. What's important to know is that the way that we have it set up, it's everyone gets a unique random ID. So that means that you get a number. We're probably in the tens of thousands right now. So you may have ID number 54672. And then all actions are based off of that. And that's not tied to your screen name or your Twitter account or anything. So it's done purely randomly. And that's to protect your privacy. But in reality, when we're trying to do these types of visitor logging actions, the only idea is to get some type of derivative data of, 1,000 people went to the follow page and they didn't go to the results page. Why not? And so we tried to randomize a number, and that's how we track all the actions. It's not like we say, this screen name is doing this. It's this number, this 10,000th user is doing this.
Okay. That leads me to my next question, which has to do with your blue rankings.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain the mechanism for how that works?
Sure. Blue rank is the idea of trying to score progressives and folks on the left from 1 to 100 on a relative score. So if you're 100, you're probably one of the most influential, interesting, engaged, and active progressives. If you have a 5, chances are you're not. That's all derived from data collected through the Twitter API. The Twitter API is a publicly available source of all tweets, followers, that type of thing. And if you go to uniteblue.com/info/bluerank, you can see all the data that's used to calculate that. But basically, all that data you can find on twitter.com simply by looking at somebody's profile. So it's based on tweets. It's based on who do they follow? Are they following other folks on the left? Are they following Democratic politicians? How often are they being retweeted? All that type of thing. So all this data is publicly available through the Twitter API, and it's what you would find looking at somebody else's profile. It's simply that since we have such a large set of data, it allows us to crunch those type of numbers in the millions of records level very easily.
Okay, and your database that you're using is SQL, correct?
Yeah, it's a MySQL database, and there's some type of add-ons to make it so that we can crunch big data, basically. You probably know more about that from me looking at your resume, and again, this is what Adam does. I'm more of a front-end guy.
Okay, and so I'm going to ask you another question that you may or may not know the answer to, but do you guys use the actual Oracle DB for your
You'd have to ask him. He's a great database guy. He actually wrote one of the first books on DBase if you were starting with programming 30 years ago.
DBase.
He wrote the book on DBase, so he knows all the database stuff. I'm going to have to defer that one to him.
Fair enough. Okay. Now, also, I did read your articles of incorporation. Congratulations on taking that step.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And have you gotten any kind of time frame when you expect to get your EIN from the IRS, recognizing you as a 104C4, or excuse me, nonprofit corporation?
We already have the employer identification number from the IRS. I have it here, and they're very good about telling you to keep it because they'll never give it to you again.
Right.
For the question of when we're going to become a 501c4, there's a lot of steps that we have to do before we can even file for that, such as setting up bank accounts, getting insurance for the board of directors, then setting up a board of directors, and so forth. And then we're going to file, and we're moving ahead with the understanding of do a 501c4 while considering other options. And if we decide to make any other decisions, such as being a 527, then we'll make an announcement to that effect. But we expect that whole process to be completed in about 5 months if we do it right. And then it seems to be that if you mess something up, it can take as long as 12 months.
Okay. Have you changed you or your father changed your attitudes towards large donations or bundling of donations or any dark money, undisclosed private donations?
Yeah, we talked about this last time, and obviously my personal view is that the role of money in politics is definitely a problem. And my only problem with answering this question is that dark money is a vague term, and if I just say no dark money, then I don't know what that entails, to be completely honest. Obviously, our interest is, I believe that the best way to do any type of nonprofit, especially a political organization, is to try to get all of your fundraising done in small amounts from a largely dispersed number of people. And that would be the goal for fundraising moving forward.
Okay. Let me break it down and not use that.
Sure. If you use more specific terms, I may be able to say yes and no. But, yeah.
Have you guys rethought or further clarified your thinking about 100% transparency on who gives you money, making that publicly available in a timely fashion, and who the money is dispersed to?
So yeah, those are two different questions. First, on disbursements, I believe that it's standard operating procedure for nonprofits to release information on disbursements on a quarterly basis, both to the IRS and also to the public. And I guess I'd have to look to my CPA and accountant for more information on that. But I do believe that all disclosure on disbursements is standard. Full disclosure on all incoming checks is somewhat less standard for smaller amounts especially. And obviously, especially given the amount of vitriol going around UniteBlue, I don't want to promise right now that everyone who donates, their name will be put out there. I think that's something that's more reasonable, is something along the lines of saying what amount of money came from under $100 donations, those type of things, while protecting individuals' privacy. So I'm concerned about making a promise to say that everything that everyone donates and every amount and their names will be published online, because that gives them real concerns. But once we make a decision on that, I'll announce it. The one thing that's clear is not to try to make any promises that I can't upkeep and then to change later. So I think that's the way that we're going to try to look at it at this point, and we'll definitely make an announcement once those type of decisions are made.
Okay. Having gone through the articles of incorporation, I noticed that there was a line where there are no members, and that the intention is that there will be no members of the corporation. It will be the board of directors and any committees that are set up by the board of directors and the corporate officers, which now are just you and your dad. So my question would be, how does the typical UniteBlue member impact or have any influence or say in the governance of the corporation if there is no membership?
Okay, so I believe that membership in the context of a 501c4 is more understood as a due-paying member, where in order to be a member of a 501c4 organization, you have to pay something like $100 a year in order to be that. And so I believe that's the context with which the word member is used in the contract. I think that you are right that there isn't a direct voting principle written into the bylaws from the members and users of UniteBlue. Obviously, we're held completely accountable to the board of directors, and they will make all of the decisions and have voting over pretty much most of the decisions that we'll be able to make, especially any large ones or any ones that could impact us personally or financially. But I think that our obligation to our members may not be found in the bylaws in that instance, but will definitely be found in the governing principles by which we work. I mean, I think that we've shown that we are working hard to find where consensus exists among the membership and then move forward and take action where that can be found. And I think that's kind of our operating principle. But I think that you're right that it's not necessarily legally defined in the bylaws.
And that's a concern I have. Maybe I'm the only person with it, but I do think that it needs to be brought up and clarified for everybody to be aware, because I'll just venture a guess and say that probably most people don't take the time to read those documents. And in the bylaws, which you just mentioned, further, clarifying that there is no mechanism for the members of UniteBlue, the volunteers, to have any kind of direct input into the governance of the corporation. So you've just clarified that, and so thank you.
Yeah, just to be clear, yes, not on a legal basis. Right. We can't take, I think we have like 5,000-6,000 members now, and they can't vote and then hold us legally obligated to take any action. But the way that UniteBlue kind of works is that it doesn't work unless we find consensus and move along there. So that's kind of how we're obliged to the membership. We can't force people to do anything. Rather, we have to find what they want to do and make it easier and more fun and more effective to do that. And so it's in the interest of the organization to uphold the interest of the membership in that effect. But you're right, there's no legally binding obligations held from the membership to the organization.
Okay. That leads me to the next observation. You had mentioned that there would be a strong firewall between UniteBlue Inc. and 140 Elect LLC and 140 Dev LLC. And I see the standard boilerplate language in there that the state of Massachusetts insisted upon. Excuse me just a second. And basically, your typical language that states that you guys can't give your own businesses preferential treatment, and that there is conflict of interest clauses contained therein, but there's no preclusion against giving fair trade status, in essence, to the two founding entities, 140 Dev and 140 Elect.
Okay, so let me be clear on 2 points. One is that there's going to be a second and separate document that is meant to erect a legal firewall between UniteBlue and any other business, including our own, and that has to take place after we establish a board of directors. Because of the way the bylaws are set up, we're not allowed to take any action that's meant to have an impact on our own finances or our own benefit. So this needs to be decided upon and voted upon by the uninterested members of the UniteBlue Board of Directors. And before we can do the Board of Directors, we have to get liability insurance. And before we can get liability insurance, we need to get a bank account. So those are the steps we have to take in order to get there. But at that point, we will absolutely transfer all intellectual property from 140 Elect to UniteBlue Corporation, along with the domain and setting it up on a server that's held by that domain. And then that legal firewall will have clauses, and obviously the lawyer will give the actual terms for this, but things such as we're not allowed to use any data from UniteBlue, we're not allowed to use the lists or the membership in any way, we're not allowed to, those sort of things. We're not allowed to use the resources of UniteBlue for our businesses. So that legal firewall has to be voted on by an uninterested members of the board of directors, and that's going to have to happen a little later once we get the steps in order. Now, for the conflict of interest clause in the bylaws, that's meant to protect UniteBlue from any type of a manipulation or special benefit on our behalf. The idea of it is that the private interest of any officer or director, including ourselves, cannot have any type of agreement or transaction that would be higher than a fair market value. So we can't pay ourselves $10,000 for something that would be $1,000. But if we provide some type of services, such as development, then it allows a fair compensation for those services, which is, as you said, standard.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Good information that everybody needs to know. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this may fall into that same category, but one of the things that was missing that I was looking for, and your tweets to this effect really don't stand up as binding legal contracts, but there was no language that UniteBlue will never sell, give, aid, assist, rent, barter, or merge with any political organization that is not affiliated with the Democratic Party.
Okay, yeah, I don't think that is in the bylaws written in that way. That is in the privacy policy now, I believe. I'm trying to find it right now as we talk.
You still have some outs in the bylaw, or in the privacy statement.
Okay, we can talk about that in a second as well. And obviously all these things can be amended to face the concerns that people express. So I think that you can see the bylaws, the privacy policy has actually been amended twice in the past month, right, based on the concerns that people express. And like I said last time, I'm always open to any type of constructive action. I think that you're right that UniteBlue bylaws itself doesn't say that it can't work for Republicans. I don't know if that's really a standard thing for bylaws, but I think that given the board of directors that those type of decisions would be made based on their role as protectors of the organizations and deciders for those type of things. So I can see whether or not that's ever really done, saying who you do and do not do business on the bylaws, but generally they don't really say what you'll do, they say how you'll operate. And then the directors, the board of directors, make those type of decisions about what you do. But I have said on Twitter, and I will say now again, I will never work for anyone in the GOP, either on UniteBlue or 140 Elect, and 140 Dev will never work on any type of Republican political project as well. So that's my word there.
Okay. Obviously, there's going to be many of us down the road who are going to be looking for something that's pretty firm and